Have you ever painted a room and thought, that could look better? If so, this video is for you. I've painted a bunch of homes over the years, and through a ton of trial and error, I come up with a simple system that gives me consistently professional looking results. And it all starts with prep. I like to use these furniture sliders to move the furniture out of the way, away from the wall that I'm painting. It's also nice because as you go around a room, you can keep moving the furniture around, and then when you're finally done, you can put it back and then take the sliders out. So I leave the sliders underneath the furniture as I'm going. And after all the furniture's out of the way, it's time to get the outlet covers off. And for the coax and the Ethernet, I just pull this out away from the wall so that I have access to paint around it. And I like to leave the screws in the plate, and I just put a little bit of painter's tape over the screw head so that I don't lose the screws. I like to give these things a quick scrub with one of these nylon scrubbers. It'll take off the dirt, the grime, and any paint that might have got on these when they were first put in. Now, if your faceplates are really dirty or they have a lot of smudges or just built up grime on them, you can use some Dawn. This stuff will pretty much clean them up really fast. And before we leave the bathroom, I just wanted to share this one tip for getting behind your toilet. It's this Sureline tool, and it comes with these replaceable pads that just snap onto it. The profile is like really thin. I'll get as close as I can with a roller and a brush. Obviously I take this off. I'll load up the pad with a bunch of paint, and then I can fit this down and go over it, and it looks like you've painted the entire wall with a brush and a roller. So now that we have everything off the walls, it's a good idea to take a close look at the walls and pay attention to the corners. You definitely want to use additional light sources when you're doing this. When I look at this wall, because it's dark, it looks fine. However, when I add light, once the camera adjusts for that, I think you can see there's a whole bunch of cobwebs up here that I couldn't see under the normal lighting. When I look at the molding, it has separated from the wall here, and it needs to be secured to the wall and then cleaned up. So I'm going to start at the top and work down, and I'm going to just make sure that I get all of the cobwebs out of up in this corner, and then hit along the molding at the bottom of the wall. I'm also going to vacuum around any of the outlets and pick up any drywall dust or anything that might get on my brush as I'm painting around the outlet. I'm using this cheap caulk removal tool to remove the old caulk before I fix the molding. So if you're trying to secure your molding to your drywall and there's not a 2x4 here, or you can't hit the footer, then you can shoot one direction and one the other direction, and that kind of pinches the molding to the drywall. So now that the molding is secure, I can go ahead and repair this here with some caulk and blend it into where it was over here. I can also fill the nail holes with some putty and then repaint this molding. I like to use this Famo wood, and I'm just using some of this painter's caulk. Caulk is good for hairline cracks. However, I wouldn't use caulk for nail holes or larger holes. For those, you're going to want to use some compound. Just get a decent, I like the pre-mixed stuff. It's just easier to always have some around. For repairs, I like this sticky mesh tape. You can stick it on an area over a hole, and then put your compound right through it. Use a skim coat over the top and then sand it down, and it does a great job. It's super simple to use. Obviously, I wouldn't use this if I was actually doing drywall in a room, but for repairs, this stuff works great. So the last part of my prep is to clean the top of the molding. Make sure that there's no dust or anything that's on the molding. It'll help my tape stick there tomorrow. And since I'm not painting the molding when I'm done, the molding will be nice and clean too. It might look like it's been painted. I like to use blue painter's tape along the top of the molding, and it does two things. First of all, it serves as the first line of defense against any drips that might be coming from above. This is the 2-inch. I would go at least 2-inch. And the second thing is it allows me to get a nice straight paint line about along the bottom where the molding is without really having to do any cutting in. For any spills that come past that, as I'm painting, I like to put cardboard underneath the area that I'm painting in, especially when I'm using a large tray. And I just move that along as I'm going, and that works great. And I don't have to cover the entire surface with drop cloths. I find this is just the easiest way to do it. Now to put the blue tape down, you don't want to overthink it. You just want to get it in that corner and get a nice straight line. The easiest way that I found to do that is if you take the tape and roll it back on itself and then shove it against the wall so that you're getting the tape right against the wall, and then lay it down and just do sections at a time. I'll show you what I mean. The tape right now is coming out from the front of the roll, and you want to have the tape right here at least perpendicular with the molding, but maybe a little bit behind. And so then when you push the tape against the wall and push the roll down, it lands like that against the wall. And then you can just press it into place gently on a few different places and then press it across the whole surface. And when you get to the end of the wall and you need to turn a corner, use scissors. Don't just rip it. Use scissors and it'll hold up much better. For all my interior painting, I like this Sherwin-Williams Emerald line. I've used it on my last 2 houses, and I'm a big fan of this stuff. My favorite thing about it is I can save the leftover paint that I have, seal up the can really well, and then in 10 to 12 years when I'm moving, I can repair whatever needs to be repaired and then paint over it again with the same paint, and you can't even see it. It blends right in with the paint that I put on the wall 10 to 12 years ago. So that's a big plus for me. To give me a little bit of extra dry time and allow the brush marks to lay down and the roller nap lines to lay down, I add 8 ounces of Floetrol to each gallon of paint. And I just use one of these little 9-ounce Dixie cups, fill it most of the way to the top and dump it out into the gallon. I don't like to save off paint that has Floetrol in it. If I do, I'll mark it on the can that I put it in there, but I prefer to just use or add the Floetrol to what I think I'm going to need, and then just add, mix up another little batch of it as I go. In this case, I have, I don't know, probably another 1.5 gallons or 2 gallons left in this 5-gallon pail, and I've just been adding Floetrol to this, and then I'll fill it up from here and mix it up and just use this. Now for cutting in, I like these paint buckets. They come in a whole bunch of different sizes and shapes, but I like one where I can use my 6-inch roller. So something like this where I can actually, whoops, I can actually roll out the roller in the pail. Same thing with this one, has the same thing. And these are super handy when you're standing up on a ladder and you can hook on your roller. This one has something I can hook my paintbrush on so that you can, as you're going, you can switch back and forth between the two. I like the way that this one holds the roller better, but it doesn't have the magnetic thing for the brush. And for cutting in, it's definitely worth getting some decent brushes. I like the 2.5-inch angled Sash brushes. They work really well to get right along the corners, and especially when you get in corner like up there, it's a lot easier if it's an angle. If it's not an angle, you're gonna have a problem getting in there. Now, if you have any misbehaved bristles on your brush, now's a good time to deal with them. You don't want to wait till you're painting, obviously. So just cut them off and be done with them. Now, when I'm adding the paint for cut in, I don't like to fill up the paint bucket very much. I like to keep it just maybe that deep. I'd much rather refill it than have to carry around a paint bucket that's way too heavy. I just got these Werner scaffolding platforms, and oh my goodness, for someone who has bad knees, these things are a lifesaver. No more up and down ladders. I don't, you can attach them together, but I don't do that because I can just stand and span this distance between the two of them. And so I can walk this entire wall and cut in the entire ceiling, and I don't have to get up and down a ladder. I just have to go up once. That's a lifesaver. I don't really like the way that they put the step for getting off of those. So I just have a little foldable step stool, and I use that for getting up and down, and that works fine. I like to get a little bit of paint on the wall, and also I'm able to get it off that edge that's up against the ceiling, and then I can just go right into the corner and go along the edge. So the idea here is you're just trying to blend in what you just put on with the brush. You don't have to get super close. I get probably a half an inch away from the ceiling. When I'm done with a section and I have to move the cardboard, I always pay attention and make sure I keep the cardboard the same orientation from the wall. So if there's a drip on it, I'll take a paper towel and clean up the drip. I don't want to leave a drip on there that I'll step in and then step in the carpet. So if I keep it always oriented the same way, so I just pull this along. The other nice thing about these little platforms is they're really light and easy to move. So painting along the molding is easy because you don't really have to worry about cutting in. However, it is important that you don't leave a big blob of paint or a big amount of paint there between the blue tape and the wall, because what will happen is the paint will dry and it'll be part of the tape and part of the wall. And when you pull off the blue tape, if you've got a huge thick layer of paint there, you're going to pull off some of the paint from the wall. So make sure that whatever paint hits the blue tape, it's a small amount, and focus on getting your brush almost perpendicular with the wall. You don't want to leave a lot of paint there. A couple of quick notes before I start rolling. I just one on these lids that I'm using. These are made by Shoreline, and they fit on top of your regular paint can. What I like about them is you can fold them out, pour the paint, seal it up, and then cap it, and it will keep the air out of your paint. So I've been using this same can for this entire basement and a bedroom upstairs, and it's worked out really well. Now, an alternative to these, is getting just a separate can, like one of these Home Depot cans. And these ones actually come with a place where you can put a spout in them, and Home Depot will give you the spouts for free. So this allows you to do the same thing as I'm doing with these cans, where I'm mixing the paint up with the Floetrol separately so it doesn't contaminate my big 5-gallon pail. I also don't like adding back paint into my clean paint, so if I have leftover paint in a tray, or when I'm cutting in, if I have leftover paint in there and I can't just put it on the wall, kind of like I was doing here and here, then I can store it in a separate can, because I don't like to put it back in the original can. So one thing that's useful to keep around, if you're using some older paint that you've stored for a while, you take the lid off of it and you notice crap drops down into the paint from around where the lid was, or there's just crap in your paint. You can strain that paint into another can, a fresh can. So again, it's handy if you have a separate can to put it in. And you can get these paint strainers. They come in 5-gallon and 1-gallon sizes, and the 1-gallon size is probably more useful. And then you can just take the strainer, put it inside your can, pour the new paint in, and then lift up the strainer and kind of strain out the paint and leave the crap in the mesh. And then you just get rid of this. And while you're picking up your extra paint can and your strainers, it's a good idea to pick up some stirrers. These things are cheap and they always come in handy. Now, when I first started painting, I used 9-inch rollers, 3/8 inch nap. I've since gone to 18 and 14-inch, and I just find these a lot better. You do have to deal with walls that are a little bit janky, and so obviously if you're dealing with a flat wall and you have a large 18-inch roller, that's not a problem. But if your wall is concave or convex, then your large roller isn't going to hit all of that surface. So there'll be if it's concave, there'll be a cup area that it doesn't get to, and if it's convex, then there's going to be obviously 2 edges that you're not going to get to. And you can manage that when you're painting by doing the V or the M. And if you find that the 18-inch is too big, you can go to a 14-inch, and this is like a nice in between. The only time I use the 9-inch rollers anymore is if I'm in a bathroom, and even in the bathroom, I typically use a 6-inch roller. So as you're painting with your roller, it is handy to keep a brush close by, so that if you notice any crap getting in your paint or something that you happen to miss and it gets in the paint, you can just pick it up with your brush and get rid of it. It's also handy to keep some paper towels and some water close by, so if you need to get paint off of something, like you rolled too far and you hit the ceiling, you can quickly get to that and wipe it off. You can get it off, it'll come off. So you just have to go over it a few times to get the paint off. And you want to get to it before it dries. Once it starts drying, it's over with. You don't want to mess with it. Just let it dry then at that point and repaint that area of the ceiling. Having a good extension is worth its weight in gold. I really like this Wooster extension, and it allows me to quickly get large, tall spaces. I painted my garage with this that has a 10-foot ceiling, and I was able to get from the bottom to the top without any issues. So I really like this thing. It's lightweight. You can drop it down when you're in smaller areas, so you don't have to take off the roller and put it back on. And I also like this Purdy roller, and I'm using a Purdy pad. And so enough talk, let's start painting.
I like to get 2 or 3 rollers of paint on the wall and then spread it out from the middle. That way I'm not loading up paint next to the ceiling, corners, or molding, where it's a lot harder to control.
And you want to just let the roller spread the paint out for you. You don't want to you're not trying to like shove it on there real hard. It's not a lot of pressure. You're basically just trying to go in like either a V or an M so that you're moving that paint that you put up on the wall evenly across that area that you're working in. The 18-inch rollers get the paint on the wall really fast, but if you're transitioning from a 9-inch roller, or all you've ever used is a 9-inch roller, you might want to try a 14-inch first. You can use the same roller that you use with the 18-inch. If you're using one of these Purdy ones, they just expand. So you can make it be whatever size you need. Alternatively, if you're just going to be using the 14-inch ones, you can get one of these Wooster ones and they fit right in the 14-inch. The one thing I don't like about this roller as opposed to this one is because this doesn't have the support for both ends of the roller, it does have flex to it. There's no flex in this one because it supports both ends.
Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found something useful. Please support my channel by liking the video and subscribing. And don't forget to use my affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does support my little channel. I'll see you next time.